Hey, Kitchen Table War Gamers, we get a special treat. I'm gonna have a little game here, 2,000 points. It's gonna be the Drukhari and the Grey Knights. This is gonna be the Warlord for the Grey Knights. He's a Dread Knight, Grandmaster in Dread Knight armor. He has the upgraded Warlord trait, so he has First to the Fray, that's his +1 to charge, and then other units around him get the +1 to charge if he makes it in on that same target. He also has Unyielding Anvil, so he gets obsec, and things within 6 inches of him get obsec, which is lovely. And of course he has the Sigil of Exigence, which is the relic that if he is targeted for shoe sting, he can just say bye-bye, go anywhere he wants, 9 inches away from the enemy, so it's like a free teleport. He is WYSIWYG, so side cannon, silencer, and the sword. And then we have the Succubus, being the warlord for the Drukhari today. She has the Razor Flails. She has precision blows, so all the 6s to wound, the 6s to hit will just automatically turn into mortal wounds equal to the damage of her weapon. And she has the Dark Lotus Toxin, that one, for her relic. So her Razor Flails are strength +1 and damage +1. It makes them strength 4 and makes it damage 2. It's lovely for killing things like Space Marines. Ha ha ha. Then she also has the +1 attack combat drug. And she's the not the competitive edge, the Master Succubus, so she can consolidate. She gets Show Stealer. She can consolidate 6 inches after she fights in any direction. So there we have it. These are the warlords. We'll be back in a second for the armies. Alright folks, here's the Grey Knights. We're running a single battalion today. Yes, it is a battalion. It is going to be pure sword bearers, and I'm going to try to make use of the vehicles a little bit better. But I also was having a bit of a struggle with my Grey Knights that had melee with the rapiers, actually getting a lot of stuff done with their attacks. The 6s to hit thing wasn't working out quite so well. So I figured, hey, let's just try everybody having the Empiric Lodestone ability. That's the Brotherhood specific one that makes it easier for vehicles to target and wound things. Because we're playing Drukhari and they have lots of vehicles. And I figured this might actually be a good list against a lot of things. We'll find out. You've been introduced already to the Warlord. He's there. We also have a Drago. He's going to be rocking around. We have Brotherhood Captain and an Apothecary. The Apothecary has Warp Shaping. Brotherhood Captain has Gate of Infinity, I believe. Drago has Gate of Infinity and Empiric Amplification, and the Dread Knight has Sanctuary and Gate of Infinity. I realized after my first couple of outings with the Grey Knights that it's a little harder to move them around as fast as we used to, unless you put Gate of Infinity on lots of models. We have one heavy support Dread Knight. He has the Kit Bashed Silencer there on the left arm, and otherwise he is as he appears to be. We have Dread Knights as they appear, Dreadnoughts as they appear, an Assault Cannon and Combat Arm for this dude, and Stormbolter. This guy's rocking the Twin Las and the Missile Launcher. Over for troops, we'll have 2 squads of Terminators. They are WYSIWYG, so 1 squad is pure Falchions, 1 squad is pure Halberds, and each of them has a side cannon in the squad. We have 2 squads of just the good old Halberds and Stormbolters for Strike Marines, so that's 4 troop options in this list. And then we have the Fast Attack. These guys are a lot of fun. Still learning better and better how to use them appropriately in this new version of the game, but they've got just some great abilities. So there you have it. It comes out to 2,000 points exactly. I forgot to mention the Brother Captain has the Cantu Vambrace, which is -1 damage on attacks coming into him, and also a 4-up against mortal wounds. So 4-up to ignore. It's kind of nice, kind of spicy. And I already mentioned his Sigil of Exigence to be able to jump around. But I believe that is everything on everybody, and we'll come back to take a look at the Drukhari next. here's the Drukhari list. This is a list that I've played a few times before on the channel. Had some fun with it, had some success with it, so I figured I'd just run it back again. It's already ready to go. You can see we have 4 Raiders. They're just going to do what Raiders do with the Dark Lances. We have 2 Ravagers here. They have the triple disintegrator cannons. We have an Archon there. He's got just a Husk Blade. He's got Ancient Evil, so he can make something fight last. 2 squads of Cabalite Warriors with a blaster in each squad. Oh, he's also carrying the Animus Vitae relic, so it can create the Power from Pain sharp moving up one as long as it hits, and it does decent mortal wound damage. Then that's it. Oh no, and then there's 2 squads of Incubi that are rocking around with him to give us 4 foot troop options, so we get 4 Raiders, and then of course the vehiculars are in there as well. And the Cabal is Obsidian Rose, so re-rolling a failed wound roll. Then we have Drazar the Master of Blades and Mr. Homunculus over here leading up a Prophets of Flesh patrol. He is a Twisted Animator, the upgraded version of the Homunculus. He has the Vexator Mask, so he can make things fight last in a 3-inch bubble. The fight last is just saucy in 9th edition. There's a group of 4 Grotesques there with the Cleavers, a Chronos, and a group of 3 Grotesques with the Liquefier guns. And then we also have a squad of plain old Racks, and the dude with all the skulls is Homuxite, so there's another squad of 5 Homuxites. Just bare bones weapons. They're good for holding objectives and keeping a Homunculus alive. And his, if you don't know, the Twisted Animator means he can bring back D3 Racks into a squad every turn during the command phase. So that's kind of nice. Then, and they have, no, I think that's it. That's the whole group there. The last patrol is, of course, the one with the Warlord. We've already talked about her, the nasty Succubus, and she's just bringing 2 squads of 5 witches. They are just bare bones witches, running around, holding objectives, killing things a lot, and filling up slots in my patrol. So, oh, and the 3rd squad of Incubi is technically fitting in with the witch cult there. So this is exactly 2,000 points of Drukhari. We've got some speed and viciousness. We've got some teching into the Prophets of Flesh for some durability. I think it'll be quite interesting to see how this matchup plays out. So that's the list. We'll come back. We'll talk about deployment and the mission, and we'll be off and running. Alrighty, folks. The mission was rolled up. It is Vital Intelligence, as some of you might recognize, with the 4 objective markers running right down the center of the table, and 1 in either deployment zone. This is a hold 2 for 5 points, hold 3 for 10, and hold more than your opponent for the extra 15. Which will be kind of fun. This Grey Knights list has a few more bodies, a few more OBSEC, and then the ability to give OBSEC with the Warlord. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be entertaining. Again, I'm still learning my new rules for Grey Knights, and I will do my best. Figure running just the Sword Bearers will make it a little easier to keep everything straight today. Deployment-wise, we're starting everybody on the board. Deep striking has proven to be fatal in the last 2 times I've tried it, so we're not doing it today. Got some Terminators here, Interceptors here, Drago's right here to give somebody the Chapter Master reroll hits. Could be a variety of options. I mean, there are a variety of options here. Plus the Terminators with the Falchions, they would be a lovely target for that. Got the Brother Captain, so he's got his aura of rerolling 1s to wound for all dudes that are Brotherhood. That would be everything. Lovely, clever. Strike Squad, Apothecary with Warp Shaping, another Strike Squad. This side, we have just the regular Dread Knight, along with an Interceptor Squad to contest objectives over there. But of course, we have various Gate of Infinity powers among the characters over here. So this collection of things is not going to stay the way it is right now. Then moving over to the Drukhari side, we've got everything, of course, on the board, except that it's hiding inside vehicles, so sort of on the board. We have Cabalite Warriors in this Raider, both squads. This Raider has Drazar, has 5 Witches and 5 Incubi. Ravager back here. Our good old racks holding down the objective there inside the building. There are no windows in this building, so they're very much hidden and protected, so that will stay ours. This boat is carrying the succubus, more witches, and more incubi. The 3 liquefier dudes are up here in the front. Homunculus is right there in the middle, protected by squad members and units, and the Chronos being a monster, and the vehicle, etc., etc. The 4 grotesques over here. So as you can see, we've got those fun party members kind of, set up in the middle. They have access to or range on objectives on either side of the center point of the board. So we're trying to, put some heavy duty stuff right there in the middle. Another Ravager here in the corner, and then this, or not corner, but edge. Then this guy is carrying the Archon, Incubi, and the Hamoxites. I believe that covers deployment and things. Obviously with Drukhari speed, they can get around and get to whatever they wish to. And then it'll just be a matter of what do we want to throw away first, contest with, trade with, etc., etc. Board-wise, the ruins are ruins. Lovely. This is the Ratworks terrain. Everything on the board is the Ratworks terrain. Barricades, the little hoodoos, as they're called. I love that name. They are dense terrain, so it's the -1 to shoot through them. And then the barricades just work as barricades, so you get light cover if you're within an inch of them. And of course they're -1 to go over. Same with these over here, so I made sure I set up the grotesques where they had an opening, this from this end right here, it's a straight shot to try to get over there to that objective. So hopefully all of these things work out just dandy. There's the Grey Knights just on the other side, and I think that we are ready for the roll-off. So we'll be using our dice as is. Oh, objectives. Secondaries. That's what I forgot to talk about. So secondary objectives, we're looking at Stranglehold, we're looking at Grind Them Down, and Assassination. So Stranglehold is holding 3 and or more than your opponent, which I realize is kind of a tall order, except that with Drukhari speed, they should be getting on objectives, and charging should be pretty easy. Grey Knights should have the durability to take objectives and hold them, I hope. Grind Them Down, we're trying to kill more of them than they do of us. And Assassination, we don't like their characters, so we're going to try our best to get rid of them. For the Drukhari, engaging on all the fronts, aboard the Witch, that's a gimme if you have no psychers. And then Grind Them Down, they too think that they can kill more units than the opponent in a given turn. And either one is likely to be true. So it's a very curious matchup here. So here we go, rolling off. The Grey Knights have seized the day. So we'll be back. Grey Knights, turn 1, coming up next. Well, it's the end of the Grey Knights turn 1. It was a rather successful turn, kind of interesting. I'm enjoying using just a single brigade battalion. A few easier things to keep track of. So this Dread Knight pushed forward, touched into the terrain, had line of sight into that raider over there. Cast the Empiric Lodestone, which is a Brotherhood spell. It was the second time it was cast. It went off with a +1 because I was in the Tide of Escalation, which allows you to cast your Brotherhood spell as long as you add a +1. And that spell gives a +1 to wound with attacks made by vehicles. Kind of handy. So this dude dropped that raider down to like 4 wounds remaining, 3 wounds remaining, and then this dreadnought over here was able to finish off with those storm bolters, ironically, but because of that +1 to wound, it made him more effective. We lost 1 Hamoxite getting out of the damaged raider. These guys over here, we're in range to smite into those guys over there. Could not see the raider, and then this dreadnought was also line of sight and in range because we have normal smite now, and rolled an 11, did a big ol' smite. The first smite did 2 damage, they shrugged 1 with those grotesques. The second smite did 5 because of super smite, and shrugged 2, so it was just perfect amount to kill 1 grotesque. On this side of the board, these guys got the Chapter Master buff, and then Drago was unable to cast Gate of Infinity. Womp, womp, womp. So they're all Chapter Mastered up and out of range of everything. Kind of awkward. This guy, and then their other spells were not in range to do anything either. This dude was able to cast Armored Resilience, because might as well make him harder to kill, and the other Dreadnought had already done Smite. The Dread Knight did cast Sanctuary successfully onto these guys, and these fellows cast... completely forgot what they cast. Oh, they attempted a Smite, sorry, I remember now. These guys, because they're Brotherhood, they cast Empiric Lodestone. The other group just cast successfully with the Brotherhood spell onto the Raider that was here with the Succubus, Witches, and Incubi. With that successful cast, the Grandmaster Dread Knight, yes, him, by himself, with a +1 to wound, finished the Raider, and his turn of shooting was magnificent. Nobody died getting out, but these Interceptors were close enough to be able to shoot into the Witches that got out. They couldn't get out anywhere where they were out of range of that Interceptor squad, and the Interceptors killed them all down to 1, and Twin Laz Dreadnought, he whiffed everything with his las cannon shots into a Raider with Drazar. He actually hit, but then he couldn't wound. He rolled Snake Eyes to wound. It was kind of awkward. And I'd already spent a reroll wound on his missile launcher, which he got a single one shot. I went ahead and used the frag profile. One shot into that one witch. He hit, and then he rolled a 1 to wound, so I spent my 1 command point to reroll that because I took grind him down. Really wanted that witch to die, and I didn't want to trust the morale phase to kill her for me. So that's the story there. There's a wound taken off of Grotesque because one Terminator squad had 1 gun in range. That was them. It was the Psy Cannon because I used Warp Shaping to switch into the Nemesis Tide, which gives you an extra 6 inches on your Nemesis weapons. Which a Psy Cannon is one of them, or Psy weapon, sorry. So that was it. It was kind of wild, kind of interesting. Really expected Gate of Infinity to not be that hard to cast, but it does take a 7 now, and we don't have a +1 to cast anymore, so I probably should have spent the command point to give him the Psychic Focus. I forgot to do that. I did spend 2 command points, one on a rerolled Psychic test that was Snake Eyes on those Interceptors, one was on the wound, so I went from 11 back down to 9 command points. I killed 3 units in total, so that's a good start there. Got Stranglehold. And the Drukhari spent 1 on lightning fast reactions for the boat that had Drazar with the twin las cannon Vendread shooting at him, and he hit regardless, and then, like I said, failed the wound. So, you know what it was? He did make his wounds. I just remembered. I rolled a 5 and a 6 for the Night Shield saves. That was probably even more aggravating. That's it. So, we did kill 3 things. We got rid of 2 transports, which means there's 2 fewer Dark Lances. I like that. Killed a unit of Witches, which is always good to do. And kind of set up across the board to receive charges. It'll be interesting. So we'll be back for the Drukhari turn 1 next. Alrighty, so turn 2 is over. Some of the big stories here. Mr. Archon got the Animus Vitae grenade to go off, so advancing and charging happened with this squad of Incubi. The Hamoxide's back there. The Archon didn't have to advance. He was close enough and made his charge because he's cool like that. However, upon charging, the Dread Knight decided he wanted to overwatch as the Incubi came through the building, which he was touching so he could see them. He killed 2 with a side cannon on the way in. That's kind of unfortunate for the Incubi, so they were down to 3. They did not make him fight last. But they, and that part didn't matter, but it was just to see if they could. They rolled an 8, but he's leadership 8. Then they swung in, hit him, and did nothing. He saved the 3 wounds that went through on him. It was kind of underwhelming from the Incubi, but they are without Drazar. Drazar is great equalizer in fights of Incubi versus Dread Knights, I've learned. So Hamoxites and Archon did the shooting and the attacking over here and managed to kill 3 of the strike interceptors. They did not fail morale. Neither did the Lone Ranger Incubi over here fail morale. So that was the story over here. This objective is now contested. This one is owned by the Drukhari because Hamoxites are troop, so they have objectives secured. Everything over here was fine. Ravager shifted forward to get line of sight into these Terminators that had the Chapter Master reroll buff. Felt like if we could use Disintegrators to get rid of a couple of these guys first, that would be great. It turns out that the first one killed 1.5. The second Ravager flew up on top of that building there, only managed to get 2 wounds through, and one of those was saved, so finished off the last guy that was hurt. So they only killed 2, but he rolled, I think the one Ravager rolled 6 ones to hit. It was impressive. Over here, interesting shenanigans occurred. The Grotesques moved forward. They did not advance, they didn't need it. Homunculus came up, healed. He just followed them along, healed up this back guy. Kronos moved forward. These Grotesques moved forward towards the building, kind of just trying to be towards the center of the board still. The Incubi that were disembarked from the exploded Raider did roll in advance and got into the building, so they're hidden from some things, not from other things. This boat moved forwards after disembarking the 5 witches, and then the Succubus ran through the building and got into the boat. So now Drazar and the Succubus are in this, along with 5 more Incubi. These witches did advance, and then they had like a 2-inch charge, which they made easily. Then these guys also charged, thanks to the Animus Vitae relic. The witches did like 2 wounds. It was real bad. Spent the 2 command points for them to reroll all their wounds too, and still did like 2. Although I will say that having the Sanctuary, I was trying to think what it was. Having the Sanctuary did help against shooting. Blasters and things like that did nothing because they were able to roll the 4-ups. So yeah, it helped a little bit. But the witches, I rolled of the 5. Oh no, maybe they did get more because they rolled like 6 wounds against these interceptors, but they were all 5s. There were no 6s, so none of that extra AP. So 4-up saves around the corner, around the board. Is down to 2, I think, left, and then the the Grotesques with their flesh gauntlets just cleaned up the rest of these guys. So that's the story for them. And this boat with the Cabalite Warriors was originally over here on this side of the building. It just had line of sight into the interceptors, and so they did all their poison shots and everything else. But it just didn't do any good. I think one guy took a wound from it. And then we spent for Fire and Fade, so this Raider came back here out of line of sight for most of the Grey Knight's army, and that was that. Now, the Grand Master, he has taken 3 wounds. He was shot by the Kronos, and I could have moved, but if I had, then he would have been able to reselect a target, and the Interceptor squad would have been the next closest target. The Grotesque were already towed in on the objective, so is this Raider, so if my Interceptors had left, then, that would have been a problem, because they still had OBSEC, thanks to the Warlord trait. So the Grandmaster took the shots from the Kronos, and it actually did 3 wounds. Then the Grotesques, because they didn't want to shorten their charge, decided to go ahead and try to shoot him as well. So he did take advantage of his once per game move, teleported back this direction, and in a very cheeky maneuver that I saw someone else do, stayed within range of just 1 Grotesque with his liquefier gun. So they didn't get to select a new target. They still had to shoot at the Dread Knight. They just had only 1 instead of 3d6 shots going into him. And that one, being a strength 4, was still 5s to wound, just didn't get any wounds through. The Kronos got a bunch of wounds through, which was weird. So that's the story. That's why he's back here. This also leaves him close enough to charge back in, do some smiting, some shooting, things like that. The witches, I know they're on the top floor here. They're actually downstairs, so they're going to be obscured. They are OBSEC, so I'm going to have to use troops to get in there to deal with them. The Dread Knight won't really be able to see them unless I go this direction to deal with that boat, and then I can shoot into the building. I don't know. There's options. We'll figure that out in just a minute in the Grey Knight's turn. So at the end of that turn, we only managed to kill 1 unit with the Drukhari, so grind them down did not happen. They did get engaged for 2 points and killed the Interceptors for 2 points on aboard the Witch. So it's currently 5-6 going into Grey Knight's turn 2. Alrighty, so turn 2 is ended for the Grey Knights. Some CPs were spent, I will admit, and most unfortunate is that I was only on one objective at the start of this turn, so I only scored a 0 for primary. However, spent 1 command point to fight on the move, which allows a teleport strike unit or teleporting unit, such as these guys, to fall back, shoot, charge, whatever they want. Fell back about 2 inches away from the Archon, leaving him the closest invisible because Hamoxites were on the other side of a wall. Move forward with this dude. This guy stayed still because I can only use that stratagem on 1 unit. He was able to handle this guy, but not with Smite, ironically enough. He shot him in the face with a side cannon and killed him real dead. Then he shot his silencer into the Hamoxites because they were no longer engaged and he can see into the building still. And very strangely killed every single one of them. They failed. They rolled 1s and 2s on saves and 1s and 2s on their 5-up ignore wounds. Like, I've never seen Hamoxites crumble quite that fast before. The Archon, on the other hand, took all the shooting from these guys with their Stormbolters and all the shooting from his various guns before dying, and he took a smite to the face that took 2 wounds off of him to soften him up a little bit. So his 3 wounds lasted a good while. On this side of the board, those all stayed still. These dudes shuffled around and up to here so they could see through and shoot at and or smite into the Archon, and their smite was the only one that was successful on that side of the board. I spent 2 command points to give a 6-inch bubble for +1 to cast from the Brother Captain. So Gate of Infinity went off this time, and those dudes are way over there where they failed to charge, because why not? Then Drago also cast Empiric Amplification onto the Grotesques, which gives you +1 damage characteristic to your Psi and Nemesis weapons, which proved very convenient in the fight phase. These guys were within range to cast Hammerhand with a +1, so that went off. I feel like I forgot a spell. Oh, I didn't forget a spell. The Dread Knight has Sanctuary. None of these two have it. So they got Hammerhand along with Empiric Amplification, and they were in range still of the Captain and Drago when they made their charge. They've just piled in now. So rerolling 1s to hit, 1s to wound. All their attacks with the halberds were damage 3. They killed Grotesques. That's the short of the story. Piled into the boat, which kind of doesn't matter, except that I've got 5 guys that are OBSEC on that objective now, as opposed to none. The shooting, for the most part, went into the Kronos and the Ravager on the building. Ravager on the building took 4 wounds. The Kronos took 6 wounds. Not shrugging a lot in this game, it seems. Then over here, there were a bunch of witches. They're dead because the Dread Knight, the Grand Master, he came around, was standing like right here with his base into the building. So silencered into the witches, killed them real fast. They didn't kill anything in the last turn in combat, so they did not have the 4-up invulnerable save as an option to them. And then the Psi Cannon did a whole 1 shot went through, not a 1 wound. He had 5 wounds of the 6 from the Psi Cannon, but I rolled 5. I'm not sure the math now. It was either 5 or 4 Night Shield saves. Whatever the math was, only one of them got through. Took him down to 8 wounds, and then in combat, had to try to decide what was the best way to attack him without potentially killing him. So I went with the stabbing mighty attack from the sword, which is only the 6 attacks, and it's d6 damage. So thankfully, in a weird sense, I rolled 2 1s to hit, so only got 3. Then I rolled 1 to wound. So only 2 went through, and the Raider did not save either of those. And then I rolled the perfect number. I rolled 6 damage, leaving the Raider on 1 wound. The reason I was so excited about that is there are Cabalite Warriors inside this. He, with his Warlord trait, is OBSEC. This thing is not. So I am currently holding that objective, which means I'm holding that one. I held this one here. I held those 2 over there with the various units there, and of course holding the one in my backfield. So I went back to Stranglehold, got that again. In this turn, it was pretty bloody for the Grey Knights. So in this turn, I killed 5 units, so we'll see if I grind them down again. Seems likely. And then I also picked up the Archon for 3 points for assassination. So it was a pretty good turn, even though I scored no primary. And in a fun twist of fate, Drukhari will now score 0 primary points as well. So this game is really going to be riding on the secondaries a lot. And I've killed a lot of Drukhari stuff, but most of what I've killed is not the like true damage dealing units that I have. So the Drukhari are still very much in the game. This side of the board over here, gonna be a problem, but not impossible. So we will be back for the Drukhari turn 2 next. Oh, that turn 2 was exciting. So here come the Drukhari doing what they do. These boys rolled a 6 to advance, so they were somewhere right around here. Easily made a charge into both the interceptors and the dreadnought. Did a bunch of damage to the dreadnought, but he rolled a bunch of 6s because he's venerable and he's cool like that. They did a bit more damage to the 2 interceptors, so they, just died. However, the dreadnought with 5 attacks, he had 4 wounds and that went through. These guys didn't save anything. 3 damage flat. It killed 1 grotesque and took 1 wound off another one. The 5 up to shrug is amazing with those guys. None of the rest of my homoxites, racks, whatever could do it, but these guys, holy cow. So that means this objective was stolen from the Grey Knights and is now back into the control of the Drukhari, and those dudes are engaged. Now, I also had a disembarked squad of incubi that were in this building. They rolled a 6 on their advance, so they made it all the way out to here, charged the strike squad, who we only had 2 command points left for the Grey Knights, so we wanted to save those for an interrupt. So no overwatch happened, so the incubi charged. We did fight first at a different spot on the table, so there was an interrupt done here by these strike members. They managed to get a whole 1 incubi killed. I'm not interrupting combat anymore. It is ridiculous. That's 2 interrupts in a row that did almost nothing. And then of course the incubi said, we'll show you how it's really done, and sliced and diced my poor strike squad. Did not consolidate over here. Well, I mean, they shifted closer, but not really. They did this side sort of closer consolidate. So there's another strike squad and an apothecary there. So yeah, they're in trouble. Over here, we had the disembarkation of incubi, Drazar the Master of Blades, the succubus, the mighty succubus, all got out. Those guys didn't have to move, neither did that, because it was already in combat with the dudes there on the ground. The Terminators that are no more. Drazar by himself killed the Terminators. It's kind of amazing. Some really bad saving throws, but also Drazar's amazing. And then over here, Mr. Vexator Mask charged into my Grandmaster Dread Knight. This dude fell back with the 1 command point spent so that they could still shoot and fire and all that good stuff. Didn't do a whole lot, but it was something. So Homunculus with Vexator Mask charged the Dread Knight. Can't overwatch him. Made the charge with an inch to spare, so he was also fighting last. The succubus came in as well, made that charge, no big deal. He took another wound, I think, from the Kronos, so it's down to 9 wounds, and then the succubus with precision blows and her insane number of attacks killed him perfectly. No command points left to re-roll anything, so he has been removed. He was mighty while he lasted. Over here, the poor Terminator squad, they got Gate of Infinity. They took all of the Ravager shots, and 2 of them died. 1 guy's still there being a hero, also did not fail morale, so he's good. And he's there to be annoying, but it seems like his job's getting kind of tough now, because he's a little bit alone, and there's not much left that is what you might call OPSEC anymore for the Grey Knights. And you know what just occurred to me? I wouldn't have changed anything yet, because this is only turn 3 that's about to start. I don't have to stay on an objective to hold it. So that does free up some things, like the Dread Knight over there. Doesn't help anywhere else in the game right now, but that's something I need to keep in the back of my mind. It's that one special mission here. Anyways, the end of that turn, this is where everything stands. Picked up a whole bunch of points. They killed 4 units, the Drukhari did, but the Grey Knights killed 5 in their turn. So, grind them down still goes to the Grey Knights, and engage, there were things in every quarter this turn, and yeah, I think that's it. So we will. You notice nobody scored primaries that turn yet again. And the Grey Knights are set to score a whopping 5 for primary this turn. So that's exciting. So we'll be back for the Grey Knights turn 3 in just a second. Alrighty, the Grey Knights have struck back. Here's what's happened. Everybody moved out here, did a smite, did a bunch of shooting, killed them. Over here, Dread Knight stomped forward. We did some smite, did a wound or two in smite, and then we ended up doing a bunch of shooting and ultimately killed them in melee. Killed one with shooting, and that pulled the Dreadnought out of combat. So then he was able to charge, and the Dread Knight charged, and the Dreadnought got his revenge and killed the grotesque that was left. The Psy Cannon and silencers, everything from the Dread Knight went into this boat. Even with the -1 to hit, the Empiric Lodestone giving a +1 to wound kind of played off a little bit on that, so dropped it down to 3 wounds, so that one's bracketed but not gone. Over here, this Dread Knight shot everything into Mr. Homunculus through there's a nice window right there, rerolling ones, all that great stuff, didn't seem to matter. Got 11 wounds through on that guy, and he proceeded to roll a crap ton of 5s to ignore them. So he's still alive with 2 wounds left. Drago, his intention was to charge the succubus and try to kill her. And then in hindsight, realized it's probably a great thing that he failed his charge, because Vexator Mask would have made Drago fight last. He would have died. As it is, he's going to get charged in the face and he'll still die. But I would have felt a little bit less foolish than if I had charged him in there. The Brother Captain, he made a heroic charge. He killed an Incubi, did a bunch of wounds a few wounds on Drazar. Drazar still has 4 left. Oh, because Drazar saved all but 1. That's correct. I remember now. It was disappointing. And he reduces damage by 1. So that 3 damage hammer became 2, etc. And then Drazar hit him back and killed him, did 12 wounds to the captain in 1 round of attacks, because the captain failed every single save and there were 2 damage. But I'm not bitter. Oh, but I probably am. Then, so that's how all that played out. Then over here, this guy finally got to do a thing. He shot and killed a rat, and then he made a charge, and he had Hammer Hand cast, and he killed all but 1 rat, and the last rat took a wound off of him, failed to flee, so this becomes a contested objective. So if you're keeping score, that means that the Drukhari only hold these 2. The Grey Knights hold all 3 of those on that half of the board, which means I am holding 3 and 1 more than my opponent. So the Grey Knights were able to pick up Stranglehold again. Only managed to kill 3 units for Grind Them Down, so we don't know yet how that's going to play out, because there's a lot of killy stuff right here for the Drukhari, and not a lot of things left over here to be killed. So it might give us a fighting chance. We shall see. So that's where we stand. The 1 command point I did have, I spent on, it's the Grey Knight's version of Wisdom of the Ancients, because it's pretty saucy to give reroll 1s to wound or to hit. I used it on the wounds, and of course I rolled no 1s to wound. Everything was just popping off. So that is the end of that tale. Drukhari turn 3 is next. Well, turn 3 is done. This little cluster of Grey Knights is fine. This little group of Grey Knights is fine. Everything else is dead. We should not be surprised. So Darklance took almost all of the wounds from him. Then the Ravager back there finished off the little Dreadnought that was doing quite a bit. Everybody else charged. Oh, Drago did take fire from the Kronos, which dropped him to 4 wounds remaining. And then the Succubus just said brrr, and he died. Not surprising anyone. The wounded, what do you call him? Ravager back there with Disintegrator Cannon scooted over to get the engage on all fronts for 3/4, and then shot and killed my Terminator. That's not surprising either. Oh, this Raider did scoop forward into the terrain just to be able to shoot, and fascinatingly enough, all of the blaster shots and the Dark Lances did nothing to the Dreadnought. It's kind of embarrassing, but it is what it is. Even with Obsidian Rose, rerolling wounds. You know why? Because the blasters failed to hit. Rolled a 1 and a 2. The Dark Lance hit, and then rolled a 1 and rerolled the 1 into a 1, because why not? Wanted to be more dramatic, I think. So, it is the end of turn 3. It is grim. Yeah, there's still things alive, but Grey Knights probably aren't going to be coming back from this. In a weird sort of way, we do have to play it out just because of points, but it's kind of funky. There's not really, with Gate of Infinity now gone, there's not a lot of speed left to this army, so we're going to get killed by this cluster of scary over here, and there's not going to be a whole lot we can do about it. But we are going to prepare ourselves, and you shall see the firepower of the Grey Knights. We have Stormbolters aplenty over here. They should actually be able to do some work on these dudes. So we'll be back. The end of this turn 4, I think, is what's coming up next for the Grey Knights. Turn 4. Just a minute. Alrighty, so yeah, turn 4 is done for the Grey Knights. We moved back this direction, spent the command point to reroll ones to wound because that's just really cool. We did cast Empiric Lodestone onto Drazar and the Succubus. From one came out of this dude and one came from the Strike Squad. We did, I think we tried to do a smite. We did. He did a smite into that Ravager back there, took 1 wound off, and then killed that with shooting from the side cannon. Killed the Succubus with the Silencer and Empiric Lodestone. Such a cool little spell. I'm really liking that one. And then the Assault Cannon and Stormbolters went into Drazar, dropped into a single wound. The Strike Squad shot into Drazar and did nothing except 1 wound. And so the Drukhari used their last command point to reroll that into a save. That was kind of a... really hoping for that. So, at the end of that turn, Grey Knights hold 3 objectives, got 10 points on primary. The Drukhari will hold 3 objectives and gain 10 points on primary for their turn 4. So, it's still just a really close game. We'll be back after the Drukhari turn 4. Alright, so the Drukhari are coming out to play. This guy with his whole 6 inches got at least around the corner to get line of sight down here. We did take a single wound off of a Strike Squad member with the poison shots. Blasters both missed again. This wounded guy flew up, got range and line of sight, took the Dreadnought down to 1 single wound. None of these guys advanced very far, so we didn't shoot the Strike Marines to make sure that Drazar would be able to make it. He still needed a 7 as it was, and he rolled a 9, so he didn't care. Homunculus and the Kronos charged into the Dread Knight, did take 2 wounds off of it, somehow. The boat over here charged the Dreadnought and finished it off with 3 wounds getting through, no saves, no explodings either, so that was pretty cool. So at the end of that, lots of things wounded. The Dread Knight, he did strike back, splitting the attacks. We're down to a single wound on him again and 2 on him again. And Drazar had to fight twice to get through all the Strike Squad, which is kind of funny to me. So that's why they're not engaged here. So that's it. We'll be back in a second to show you the Grey Knights turn 5. Alright, it's the end of the turn for the Grey Knights. We did the cheeky thing. We smote Drazar and killed him. Then we also did the cheeky thing and smote the Homunculus and killed him. And then we tried to be cheeky and split with a Silencer into the Kronos and the Psy Cannon into this. However, the Silencer did not kill the Kronos, and the Psy Cannon wasn't able to shoot because I wasn't in combat with that. Bad move. So I had to put all my attacks in the Kronos, which died. So I picked up the last 2 assassinate points. Gonna grind them down because there are only 2 things left to kill for the Grey Knights versus, there's only 2 units left for the Grey Knights, so Drukhari cannot take that. So I'll grind them down this turn, and then that's gonna be it on that. And I did pick up 10 for primary. So It looks like at the end of this game, regardless of what happens now, Drukhari are going to get full 15. But I don't know beyond that. So we're going to play, roll the dice, see what happens, and be back after Drukhari, turn 5. And that game is in the books. What a finish. Move forward to get distance and range, everything shot at him for the most part. Only dropped him down to 7 wounds. Homeboy fell back, used the command point to fall back and still shoot. And then this guy shot into him along with some poison shots from the Kabbalat warriors, and we're able to kill him in shooting. And with his full movement, was able to just tow into that objective. Done and done. So here's how it breaks down. The Drukhari end the game with a unit in every quarter for another few points on their engage. It came down to the wire. It ended up being 66 to 69 Drukhari victory. Grind them down, interestingly enough, failed to work for the Drukhari. I was kind of surprised by that, but they nearly maxed engage and did max up War the Witch. Assassination, got the full points for that with the Grey Knights. Grind them down and Stranglehold was going pretty well with them. This was a wild game. So the primary was super low scoring for both sides, even to that last turn. Remember, there's still one rack on that back corner objective there on the left. Everything else is dead. Dread Knights, love them. Using Dreadnoughts and Dread Knights was a really fun combination. It was just really cool. You notice there's very few small bodies on the board. This boat's still full of Kabbalat warriors. But aside from that, everything has died with the exception of a couple vehicles. So thoroughly enjoyed this one. Hope y'all enjoyed it too. Really, really good game. Once again, shout out to the Ratworks for the terrain. Also Merlin's Grimdark painting service for the paint job on my Ravagers and the Raiders, getting them all matched up, looking sharp. I am greatly appreciating it. Check them out for possible paint jobs and or terrain work for yourselves. Again, hope you guys enjoyed this. This has been another Kitchen Table Wargaming Battle Report. There probably won't be many of these from me for a good while, so really do hope you liked this one. I certainly had a good time. We'll be back for more as soon as is physically possible.